My name is Rock. I'm 42 years old. And for most people in my neighborhood, I was just the quiet guy who kept his lawn clean and smiled at everyone. That was exactly how I wanted it. I had spent more than 20 years serving my country. I wasn't interested in telling strangers about my military career. I didn't wear hats with unit logos. I didn't fill my garage with trophies. My medals stayed locked inside a small wooden box in my bedroom closet. After leaving the military, I started a security consulting company. The work paid well, but it also gave me something I valued even more: peace. My mornings were simple: coffee, a short run before sunrise. Then I walked my golden retriever, Cooper, through our quiet neighborhood. Most of my neighbors were friendly, except one family. The Hendersons had moved in 6 months earlier. Their house looked like a mansion compared to everyone else's. Luxury cars, private landscaping crews, loud weekend parties. Everything about them screamed money. Richard Henderson made sure everyone knew it. Every conversation somehow came back to his success. My investment paid for that. My son drives a better car than most adults. We don't settle for average. The man loved hearing himself talk. His wife rarely spoke. She usually stood beside him with an uncomfortable smile, almost like she had learned it was easier to stay quiet. Then there was his son, Tyler, 23 years old, tall, athletic, confident, too confident. Richard introduced him to everyone the same way. My son has a black belt, regional champion. Nobody messes with him. Tyler enjoyed hearing those words even more than his father. Whenever neighborhood teenagers gathered outside, Tyler found excuses to show off. Breaking wooden boards, shadowboxing, talking about fights he claimed to have won. People applauded. I kept walking. One afternoon, Tyler stopped me while I was walking Cooper. "Hey, old man." I turned around. "You ever train?" I smiled politely. "A little." "What style?" "A long time ago." He laughed. "I could probably teach you something." "Maybe." He looked disappointed. He wanted an argument. Instead, I wished him a nice day and continued walking. As I reached the corner, I heard him laughing with his friends. Guys probably scared. I didn't look back. Some battles aren't worth fighting. At least, not yet. A week later, the neighborhood held its annual charity barbecue. Families filled the park. Kids played baseball. Music echoed across the grass. Everything felt peaceful until Richard arrived. He parked his newest luxury SUV, where volunteers had clearly marked the entrance as emergency access. A volunteer politely asked him to move. Richard laughed. "Do you know who I am?" The volunteer stayed calm. "Sir, it's for safety." Richard rolled his eyes. "I donated more money than everyone here combined." People exchanged uncomfortable looks. Eventually, he moved the vehicle, but not before making sure everyone heard how ridiculous the request was. Later that afternoon, Tyler started entertaining a crowd. He challenged anyone willing to spar with him. Teenagers, college students, even a local gym instructor. Most declined. A few accepted. Tyler easily outperformed them. Every win made him louder. Finally, Richard spotted me sitting alone with Cooper. He smiled. "There he is." I already knew where this was going. Richard walked toward me with half the neighborhood following behind. "Daniel." I stood. "My son says you used to train." "A little." Richard laughed. "Come on. Give him a quick match." "No thanks." Tyler crossed his arms. "Afraid?" "No." "Then prove it." "I'm here to enjoy the barbecue." Someone in the crowd whispered. "Just do it." Others pulled out their phones. I hated where this was heading. Tyler stepped closer. "If you walk away, everyone will know why." I looked him straight in the eyes. "Walking away isn't weakness." He smirked. "That's what weak people always say." The crowd laughed. Not everyone. A few older neighbors looked uncomfortable. One of them quietly said, "Leave him alone." Richard ignored her. He placed a hand on Tyler's shoulder. "Show everyone what confidence looks like." I noticed something important. Richard wasn't trying to teach his son respect. He was feeding his ego. That made me sad more than angry. I picked up Cooper's leash. "We're leaving." As I turned away, Tyler grabbed my shoulder. Not hard, but enough. The entire park fell silent. I slowly removed his hand without hurting him. Then I looked directly at him. "You should never put your hands on someone without permission." He laughed. "What are you going to do about it?" I smiled. "Nothing." That answer confused him. It confused everyone. I walked away. Behind me, I heard cheering. Tyler raised both arms like he had won a championship. Richard shouted. My son scared him off. More laughter. More phones recording. They thought the story was over. It had barely begun, because someone in that crowd had captured something much more important than Tyler's celebration. They had recorded exactly how everything started. And by Monday morning, another person would arrive at my front door with information that would change everything. I thought I knew about the Henderson family. I had no idea that refusing to fight would become the most powerful move I could make. When I woke up on Monday morning, I expected life to return to normal. Instead, my doorbell rang at exactly 8:15. Standing on my porch was my neighbor, Linda Foster. She looked nervous. "Daniel, do you have a minute?" "Of course." She held up her phone. "I wasn't sure if I should bring this to you." She pressed play. It was the video from the barbecue. But unlike the clips everyone had posted online, this one started much earlier. It clearly showed Tyler walking across the park toward me. It showed me refusing every challenge. It showed Richard encouraging him. Then it captured Tyler grabbing my shoulder before I ever touched him. The ending was even more interesting. Right after I walked away, Richard faced the crowd and loudly announced, "See? That's what happens when confidence meets fear." The people around him laughed. Linda paused the video. "Most people only uploaded the last 30 seconds. They made it look like you backed down because you were terrified." She hesitated. "But this version tells the whole story." I smiled. "Thank you." She looked embarrassed. "I should have spoken up yesterday. You are speaking up now." That was enough. Before leaving, she said something unexpected. "My nephew works at the community center. So, he told me Tyler has been doing this for months." I raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "He challenges people whenever there's an audience. Teenagers, visitors, delivery drivers, even an elderly veteran last month." That stopped me. "An elderly veteran?" Linda nodded. "The poor man just wanted to enjoy the picnic." I thanked her again. As she drove away, I watched the video one more time. The truth was sitting in my hand. But I wasn't interested in embarrassing Tyler online. I wanted something better. I wanted him to learn. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something bigger was happening. And I was right. 3 days later, I attended a neighborhood association meeting. Normally, fewer than 20 people showed up. This time, almost everyone came. Richard was there, wearing another expensive suit. Tyler leaned against the wall with the same confident smile. Halfway through the meeting, Richard stood up. "I think we should discuss the behavior of certain residents." Several people looked at me. Richard continued, "A neighborhood should have confident men, not cowards who walk away when challenged." A few people laughed. Most stayed quiet. The association president cleared her throat. "Mr. Henderson, this meeting isn't about personal attacks." Richard ignored her. "If people act weak, kids grow up thinking weakness is acceptable." Tyler folded his arms and grinned. For a second, I considered responding. Then I remembered something my old commander used to say: "Never interrupt someone while they're exposing themselves." So I remained silent. Richard kept talking. The longer he spoke, the more uncomfortable the room became. He insulted neighbors. He mocked older residents. He even claimed the neighborhood needed stronger people. By the time he finally sat down, several families were shaking their heads. He had done more damage to his own reputation than I ever could. But the biggest surprise came after the meeting. The association president approached me. "Daniel, could we talk privately?" We stepped into the hallway. She sighed. "I've received 7 complaints about the Henderson family this month." 7? She nodded. "Harassment, threats, noise, property disputes." She lowered her voice. "And now several residents are afraid to report anything because Tyler intimidates them." That bothered me more than anything Richard had said. Fear spreads quickly. If nobody stands up, it becomes normal. I asked one question. "What happens if someone finally reports everything?" She smiled slightly. "Then we can actually do something." That was all I needed to hear. Over the next 2 weeks, I didn't confront anyone. I simply listened. Neighbors started talking. One family showed me security footage of Tyler kicking over their trash cans after an argument. Another had videos of him screaming at a landscaper. A delivery driver shared dashcam footage showing Tyler pounding on his truck because it briefly blocked the Henderson driveway. None of these incidents alone seemed huge. Together, they formed a pattern. Arrogance, intimidation, bullying. Everything was documented. Everything had dates. Everything had witnesses. I organized every video, every statement, every complaint into one folder. Old habits die hard. Years in the military had taught me one lesson. Facts beat emotions. Every time. Still, I wasn't planning revenge. I was building accountability. There's a difference. One Friday afternoon, I received another surprise. A black SUV stopped outside my house. A woman stepped out. She introduced herself as Karen Mitchell. She was Tyler's martial arts instructor. I hope I'm not bothering you. Not at all. She looked genuinely disappointed. I heard what happened. You saw the videos? I saw all of them. She crossed her arms. That's not what I teach. I believed her. She explained that respect was the first lesson in her school. Any student who used martial arts to bully others violated everything they stood for. I warned Tyler several times. You did. He stopped listening months ago. She looked down. I think his father enjoys it. That confirmed what I had already suspected. Karen handed me a business card. If Tyler ever challenges you again. She smiled sadly. Don't accept. I wasn't planning to. I know. She laughed quietly. People with real experience almost never want to prove it. As she walked away, I realized something important. This story was never about martial arts. It was about pride. And pride usually destroys itself. I just had to be patient. The opportunity arrived sooner than expected. The neighborhood announced its annual Family Safety Day. Police officers, firefighters, emergency medical teams, self-defense demonstrations. Hundreds of residents planned to attend. Richard immediately volunteered Tyler for a martial arts exhibition. He couldn't resist another audience. The association president called me later that evening. Daniel. Yes. We're looking for someone to give a short presentation on conflict de-escalation and personal safety. I almost laughed. You want me? Several neighbors recommended you. I've never spoken publicly about my background. You don't have to mention everything. I thought for a moment. Maybe this was the better answer. Not humiliation. Education. I'll do it. She sounded relieved. Thank you. Neither Richard nor Tyler knew I had accepted. They believed Family Safety Day would be another stage for showing off. They had no idea the event would reveal something they never expected. Not through a fight, but through the truth. And when Tyler finally learned who I really was, and why walking away had never been fear, it would change far more than his reputation. It would force him to question everything he thought strength meant. Family Safety Day arrived on a bright Saturday morning. By 9 o'clock, the community park was full. Children climbed through fire trucks. Police officers answered questions about neighborhood safety. Local paramedics demonstrated basic first aid. It felt less like an event and more like a family reunion. I parked my truck a few blocks away and walked in with Cooper. Nobody paid much attention to me. That was fine. Across the park, Richard Henderson was impossible to miss. He wore a designer polo shirt with expensive sunglasses hanging from the collar. Tyler stood beside him in a spotless martial arts uniform. Richard greeted everyone loudly. My son will be doing today's self-defense demonstration. Tyler smiled for every camera. It looked more like a publicity event than a community program. I simply found a quiet seat near the stage. The association president eventually stepped up to the microphone. Thank you all for coming. Today is about safety, respect, and helping one another. People applauded. She continued. Our first presentation is a conflict de-escalation. Talk from one of our own neighbors. Daniel Brooks. Richard's smile disappeared. Tyler looked surprised. I walked calmly onto the stage. No dramatic music. No military introduction. Just another neighbor holding a microphone. Good morning. The crowd answered together. I've spent most of my life learning something many people misunderstand. Everyone listened. Real strength isn't about winning fights. It's about preventing them. The park became completely quiet. I spoke about staying calm under pressure. About protecting your family without letting your emotions control your decisions. About how one bad decision can follow someone for years. There were no war stories. No bragging. Just simple lessons anyone could understand. Near the front row, I noticed several teenagers paying close attention. That mattered more than impressing adults. Then a little boy raised his hand. Sir. Yes. Were you ever scared? I smiled. Many times. The crowd looked surprised by my answer. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing the right thing even when you're afraid. The audience applauded. I stepped away from the microphone. The association president thanked me. Then she smiled. I forgot one small detail. She looked toward the crowd. Daniel recently retired after serving as the leader of a Navy SEAL team. A wave of whispers spread across the park. Richard slowly turned toward me. Tyler's confident smile disappeared. People looked back and forth between us. One elderly veteran stood up first, then another. Soon dozens of people were applauding. Not because I had been a SEAL, because they finally understood why I had walked away. I nodded politely and returned to my seat. I didn't need the attention. The truth had spoken for itself. But the day wasn't over. Not even close. Tyler's martial arts demonstration started 20 minutes later. He performed several impressive techniques. The crowd applauded politely. When he finished, he grabbed the microphone. "I'd like to invite Mr. Brooks onto the mat." The park became silent. Richard smiled again. He thought this was Tyler's chance to recover. I walked toward the stage. Tyler looked directly at me. "Just a friendly demonstration." I smiled. "No." He blinked. "No. I already taught today's lesson." A few people laughed. Tyler tried again. "People want to see who's better." I shook my head. "No. They deserve entertainment. They deserve a good example." Silence. Then I continued. "If I step on this mat to satisfy someone's ego, everything I said 5 minutes ago becomes meaningless." Nobody spoke. Even Tyler looked unsure. I offered him my hand. "You're talented. You've clearly trained hard. But talent without humility will eventually become a burden." He stared at my hand for several long seconds. Before he could respond, Richard stormed toward the stage. "My son doesn't need lectures." He pointed at me. "You're embarrassing him." I calmly answered. "No, you are." The words weren't loud, but everyone heard them. Richard looked around. For the first time since moving into the neighborhood, nobody agreed with him. Nobody laughed. Nobody clapped. He was standing completely alone. That silence hit harder than any punch ever could. A few days later, the neighborhood association held another meeting. This time, nearly every resident attended. The president reviewed months of complaints, videos, witness statements, security footage. Everything was organized. Everything was factual. Nobody exaggerated. Nobody argued. When Richard tried interrupting, several neighbors asked him to let the evidence speak. By the end of the meeting, the association voted to issue formal violations for repeated harassment and disruptive behavior. Local authorities were notified regarding documented incidents where appropriate. The message was simple. The bullying had to stop. Legally, respectfully, permanently. I didn't celebrate. Justice doesn't require cheering. It simply requires accountability. About a week later, I heard another knock at my door. This time, Tyler stood outside alone. No expensive car. No audience. No father. He looked different. Almost exhausted. "I owe you an apology." I stayed quiet. He took a deep breath. I thought walking away meant weakness. I was wrong. Neither of us spoke for several seconds. Then he surprised me. "My instructor told me she was considering removing me from the school." I nodded. "She told me respect matters more than belts." "It does." He looked down. "I've spent years trying to impress my dad." Those words explained everything. Every challenge. Every insult. Every public performance. He wasn't trying to become stronger. He was trying to earn approval. Sometimes the people creating bullies aren't the bullies themselves. Sometimes they're the voices standing behind them. Tyler sighed. "I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted to say I'm sorry." I looked at him. "I accept your apology." His shoulders relaxed. "But earning back trust takes time." "I know." As he turned to leave, I stopped him. "Tyler." He looked back. "Being strong isn't about proving what you can do. It's about deciding what you don't need to do." He nodded quietly. "I'll remember that." For the first time since we'd met, I believed him. Months passed. The neighborhood changed. Children played outside more often. Families stayed longer at community events. People smiled instead of avoiding each other. Richard rarely attended neighborhood gatherings anymore. When he did, he spoke far less than before. Tyler continued training. But something had changed. One afternoon, I watched him stop two teenagers from arguing near the basketball court. He separated them, calmed them down, then walked away. No audience. No applause. Just the right decision. I smiled. That was the strongest thing I'd ever seen him do. Looking back, people often ask why I never accepted Tyler's challenge. The answer is simple. Because my goal was never to defeat him. It was to stop the cycle that created him. Anyone can win a fight. Not everyone can change the ending. And sometimes, the greatest victory is walking away until the truth catches up.